Welcome to the free webinar, The Confident Clicker Trainer. Enhance the bond with your horse. What are the 3 ingredients to make clicker trainers feel confident? When I look back on my career, one of the things that really started to make me feel confident is when I started to get predictable results, because I was following a system which took me step by step through the training process of a horse that didn't know anything what I wanted to that the horse knew exactly what I wanted, when I wanted it and how I wanted it. So predictable results will really make you feel confident. The second ingredient is to get timely results. Because it's one thing to know that you can teach your horse to target or that you can teach your friend's horse to target. But if you don't know when that will be, like maybe in 1 session or in 500 sessions, that can make you feel insecure if you don't know when you would get those results. And in training, depending on what behaviors you're training, but the more you do it, the more timely results you will get. And timely results will really give you confidence. And the last of the 3 ingredients to help you become a confident clicker trainer is that your successes are repeatable because you're using a system in training. So you know that you can teach your own horse to target, for instance, but you also know that you can train your friend's horse to target, in how many sessions you can expect him to target, and also that you can repeat this success with other horses as well. Now, is targeting a fairly simple behavior. It's not a complex behavior with multi-layer behaviors, but this is where we start building those foundational skills, and the more you practice with those foundational skills, the better you become at it, and that's one part of the Confident Clicker Trainer course. I teach you 6 foundational behaviors that will really help you train all future behaviors and also help you find the pitfalls that you have in training. For instance, what do you do when you teach your horse to target but he gets frustrated? So we will figure those things out, and then you will get tools and techniques to prevent frustration. First, to recognize it in your horse, and then how you can deal with the frustration, but also how you can prevent it in the first place. So confidence is really based on getting predictable results, timely results, and repeatable results. A little bit about me. I am the founder of HippoLogic and the HippoLogic Clicker Training Academy. I have a bachelor degree of science in animal management, and in my study we really paid a lot of attention to animal welfare of non-production animals, so pets and also zoo animals. After my study, I became certified as a riding instructor and a horse trainer because I really wanted to help horse people. Over time, I trained staff and rehabilitated horses and other animals at rescue organizations with clicker training. And what I have found is that clicker training really can help enhance the welfare of horses and other animals, but also really is a good way of communication between handlers and their animals. And that's why I really focused on becoming a positive reinforcement, a clicker coach, because I saw how much not only the animals benefited from using clicker training, but also how much clarity it gave people. So that is really my vision and in life. I tamed and I trained a wild horse in 3 weeks with positive reinforcement. This is my heart horse, Kira, and Kira really steered me to the path of more and more and more positive reinforcement. And since there was no system when I started with Kira, which was in 2009, I started to develop a system so that everybody else, my clients, could get predictable results with clicker training too, and also that they could become autonomous clicker trainers, that they could figure things out on themselves using a system. Like I said, I founded HippoLogic and the HippoLogic Clicker Training Academy because I really wanted to create a space for clicker trainers, an online community, because so many people have told me that they feel like the odd one. And since clicker training and positive reinforcement training is in many parts of the world, it is really, not taken seriously as a training method. Many people need support and a community to feel safe to ask their questions and get help. My mission is to help horse owners become autonomous clicker trainers and enhance horse-human relationships by teaching people to a clear two-way communication system with the horse. So let's get. So the system that I teach and that I will talk about in the Confident Clicker course and is based on 3 pillars. These 3 pillars are equally important, and when you master all 3 pillars, you will get to the star. And the star is when you are really good at positive reinforcement training, you create that two-way communication system that is built on trust and understanding. Because in positive reinforcement, it is super important that you listen to the feedback that you get from your horse so that you can adjust your training to what he needs, so he can learn better. So it will always be a win-win situation if you're training or riding your horse. So that friendship and connection is where those 3 pillars overlap. Let's start with the first pillar. If we don't have a dream or goal we strive for, we actually are not improving our horse's life, because we will not enhance anything and we will stay where we are, which means that we will stay stuck, because if we don't move forward, we are usually moving backwards. When we find a way to accomplish our dreams and goals, we can find fulfillment, which is super important to me. Most of my clients really have as a part of their dream that really strong connection with their horse, and they also really want their horse to love them too. So they want to know how they can make life for their horses better. And I really, really love that. Then the second pillar, which is super important, which I never had when I started, is the pillar clarity. When you have clarity in clicker training, you can prevent frustration and confusion, not only for yourself, but also for your horse. Without clarity, we can fall back on negative reinforcement and sometimes even on punishment, because we don't know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But when we have clarity, we feel confident because we know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So clarity is super important part of the HippoLogic system. Pillar number 3 is taking action. Taking appropriate action. Action that really aligns with our dreams and goals and also our values in training. We can only take the appropriate action when we have the clarity part. So in training we get feedback so that we can course correct in order to improve. So improvement is a super motivator. The moment that we can see that our training really affects our horse in a positive way, that we get the results, that we get them in a timely manner, that we get predictable results, and that we can repeat those successes. That is really where the action comes in. When we are afraid of taking action, we stay in fear and we cannot improve ourselves or our horses. So let's see what happens where those pillars overlap, because those are very important too. When you get really clear about how to accomplish your dreams and goals, your training, all training sessions get meaning, because you know exactly what you are training and what it is for. Even when it's raining, for instance, and you can only train 5 minutes in a stall because there's nothing else where you can train, and you can do some targeting because you will know that that little part of targeting will help you get trailer training done, then you get meaning in that little part, that 5-minute session of targeting. If you have a horse that is really insecure and afraid, and you have only 5 minutes and you can do some targeting, because you will know that this will give your horse the confidence he needs, because you are predictable in training. You give him a really small assignment that you know he will be successful in. So you know that this little step in training is a part of that foundation to do all your future training. That is what meaning is, and that's why it's so important to have meaning in your training. The second intersection is between clarity and taking action, doing the actual clicker training. Because when you have clarity about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, then you get those timely successes, predictable results, and that's where you really feel that your training gets momentum, and that feels really, really, really good. You feel that you're in a flow, and things feel effortless. So when we're taking the right action towards our own dreams and goals, yes, then we can come to the next intersection, which is successes. So the more success you have, the more confident you feel. So creating success, some people think this is a really, really big word, but to me, success also means, like, think back of all those happy moments that you have created with your horse. Those are successes. Moments that you look back on and feel really, really proud. Wow, my horse did that. My horse walked over that wooden bridge that he was so afraid of just a little while ago. Those things are your successes. We create memories we want to remember and we want to cherish. So if that makes sense, stay tuned, because this is what this webinar is all about, and I will exactly explain to you how you can get this. So I hope you have pen and paper ready so you can make notes. So let's get started. If you have pen and paper, if it's ideal if you have 3 colored markers, a red, a green, and a yellow. And every pillar has 3 questions. I will give you a situation so that you can assess yourself. Am I assessing myself in this area green? Yeah, I nailed this. I do this all the time. You can assess yourself with the color red. If you think, I never do this, I've never done this, this is completely new, I don't do this, and you give yourself a yellow if it's somewhere in between green and red. It's super simple, don't overthink it. The more honest you answer these questions to yourself, the more clarity you will get about the areas where you can improve your clicker training and the bond with your horse. So let's begin. Bubble number 1 is about getting results towards your dreams and goals. because without getting results, we can get disappointed in our horses, we can get disappointed, even worse, in ourselves, and we can really get discouraged. So getting results is really important to stay motivated and get your momentum done and get your accomplishments done. So when we do get results in clicker training, we really made us feel good. And we also noticed that the bond with our horses improves the more clicker training we do, because the more we will fine-tune our communication system with our horse. Give yourself a green if you get results on a continuous basis. You even have a system to track your results, and you have a list of all the behaviors, and you know exactly what to do when you get the results, and you really work deliberately every session towards one of your dreams or goals. Now, assess yourself with a red if, when you look back on your training of the past 3 months, you don't know what you have accomplished. You don't have a list of check marks of behaviors you've trained in the past 3 months. And if you look back, you maybe even realize that you haven't been working towards your dreams or goals at all lately. Give yourself a yellow if you're in between that. The next bubble is called accountability, support, and coaching. Without accountability, we can really stay stuck. We are so enthusiastic, and then something happens, we have a little struggle, and we don't know how to solve it, and then we get distracted, or life happens, and maybe we don't ever come back to training that behavior, or we start another behavior. I call that the shiny behavior syndrome. Oh, let's do that instead. Oh, we haven't trained this. I don't know how to build duration. I don't know how to put this behavior on cue, or my horse offers this behavior all the time. So let's stop training this, and then let's do something else. When you have accountability, support, or coaching, you will train until you have your results, the results that you're really looking for. So that can really help you. So without accountability, your process can really slow down or even fizzle out. And when we do have coaching and support, we make progress the fastest we can, so we get those timely results. We will take action despite of our fear of failure. And if we have a group support, we also feel supported by like-minded people, because our behavior, which is clicker training our horse, is really enhanced or hold back due to the environment we are in. If you are in a barn that you know people look down on your treat training, you don't feel confident to do that when other people are around. And when you notice that you're tiptoeing around other people's schedules to clicker train your horse, you really know that you should have some more support and accountability, so that won't bother you. Assess yourself for bubble number 2 with green if you have weekly check-ins with your accountability partner, friend, or coach, if you have somebody that really keeps you on course, or if you get weekly coaching. Those are all greens. Assess yourself with a red on the accountability part if you have no accountability partner or coach, that you have to be really self-motivating all the time, and if you struggle with that. Give yourself a yellow if you're in between. Sometimes you follow a course and you do everything in the course, but once the course ends, maybe it fizzles out or something, so you do have certain points in the year that you are really enthusiastic about your training, and then maybe other times you're have less accountability built in for yourself. So bubble number 3 of the first pillar is called equestrian core values. The values are the things, the rules, the principles, I have to say, that you live by, the things that are super, super, super important to you. I guess that one of your values, for instance, is that welfare and giving your horse a choice and a voice in training is really important to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here looking for clicker training, coaching, advice, and things like support like that. So if you really know what your values are in horse training, what do you find acceptable, the more clarity you have, the better you can make all your decisions based on your equestrian core values. If you're not conscious about your values, then you can make decisions that you might regret later. For instance, when you're not really clear about your training values, and you don't get the results with clicker training, and you're riding and your horse doesn't canter, and you get annoyed or maybe even frustrated because your friend is in the arena and she's cantering. Yes, she did use a whip, and you're basically not really fine with that, but now you really want that canter from your horse and he's not doing it and you're getting frustrated. So you will decide that you do extra leg aid and more until he does it. But when that goes against your values and you're conscious about the values, then it can happen that you regret it. But when you are really clear about your values, you also know, even in the greatest frustration, because this is an example, what I was just talking about is my real life example. The next time that happened, that I saw other people getting the results that I was craving in that moment, but I knew the way they are getting those results are really in conflict with my core values. At the end of the day, I can say, okay, I didn't get the result I wanted, but I still have my values that I honored. So that will give me a really good feeling, even though I didn't get the results. So if we are clear about the values that we are lived by when it comes to keeping, training, and riding our horses, we can make decisions that always will make us feel good, even though it can be really hard to honor those decisions in the moment. For instance, we hired a farrier, and we know that it is one of our values to take care of our welfare of our horses. So that is why we called the farrier, because their hooves needed to be trimmed. But then another value is that we don't want to inflict unnecessary pain on our horses. And then the farrier gets frustrated and he whacks our horses. What do? I don't know about you, but I have been in this situation several times until I got clarity about my core values. There is a line there. People do not use punishment on my animals, and especially not when I'm there. So when I had this situation where the farrier became anxious and frustrated and angry, and he whacked my horse, I could immediately jump in and say, you know what, here's your money, goodbye. It was still very hard, but that day I really had such a good feeling, way better than the times before where I had farriers that whacked my horse, did the trim, my horse got stressed out, I got stressed out, and at the end of the day I really didn't feel good because I let somebody punish my horse. So that's an example of your core values. And when you are really clear about your core values, you can have dreams and goals that are aligned, that you can align with your values. So you're not training or doing things with your horse that you're actually not wanting to do. So assess yourself with a green that if we talk about core values, that you say, oh, I've given this so much thought. I have a written list. I can give you my top 5 right here and now. Assess yourself with a red if you find yourself often in situations that you regret. For instance, that you have fallen back on negative reinforcement while you actually don't want to do that. Maybe you even use punishment. You feel guilty about what happened that day. If that happens to you on a regular basis, give yourself a red. Give yourself a yellow if you're in between. You know you have values, but you can't name your top 5. Pillar number 2, clarity. One of the things that gives you clarity is having a vision, because with a vision, with a dream board, when you have a dream and you make a dream board, then you get really clear about the details. Like, for instance, maybe your goal is trail riding, but trail riding is a really big goals with many layers and behaviors. But once you know, okay, I want to trail ride and I want to feel safe and confident when I'm doing this, and I want to take my horse out on trails by myself, so I'm not depending on somebody else's schedule to go out for riding, and I'm in a forest, so my horse needs to jump, or I need to go cross a busy road, so my horse needs to be calm and confident in traffic. So if you have that vision board with your dreams and goals on it, and the different aspects of that vision, that will really help you give yourself clarity, because once you have that vision board for you and your horse, you can divide that bigger goal into smaller steps. Just like one behavior, you divide it up into baby steps. You can do the same with your vision, and divide it into smaller steps, so that you can really have that clarity about how to accomplish, how to accomplish your dreams. And when we have that clarity about what we want, how we want it, based on our vision and ethics, then it's really easy to write those things down and make a vision board. So give yourself a green when you say, oh, my vision board, it hangs into the barn every day. I come in the barn, I see my vision board, or I made a list. I know exactly what I'm going to train, what my goal is, maybe even for this year, so that you can have the timely results, what we talked about, to make you feel confident. And when you say, like, I really have this one goal and it's really inspiring me, and every time I go to the barn, I know what I'm there for and what I want to accomplish with my horse, and you're excited about it, give yourself a green. Give yourself a red if you think, I don't really have a clear goal. I just want to have a good relationship with my horse. And that's great, but have you ever thought about how do you define that relationship, and how can you measure it? And having that clarity about your goal is really going to help you, because we all know people that feel they have this fabulous relationship with their horse, but they don't measure it. So every time they walk into the pasture with a halter and the horse walks away or is hesitant, that's something that you can measure that relationship with. Like if the horse doesn't want to engage, how good is that relationship really? So once you have clarity about how you can measure what it is that you really want to accomplish, then you can also say, okay, my horse walks away from me in the pasture, and I'm changing my ways so that I can get an engaged horse. Also, becoming very aware of changing your method and your ways to get to the results you really, really want, those are the things that will make you confident. Because then you can say, yes, my horse didn't really want to engage with me at first, but now he's really enthusiastic about spending time with me, and he really wants to engage with me in training. And I know that because, first of all, he's walking towards the gate when he sees me, and maybe he's even greeting you with a soft nicker. So those are things that you can use to measure if you're actually getting the results you want. So that's part of clarity, knowing how to measure that. Going back to your vision board, green if you have a vision board hanging in your stable or a place where you see it every day. Red if you don't really feel that you have goals, or this is one of like, oh, you haven't thought about your goals in months, but now here when you hear me talk about it, you realize my goals are a little bit vague. That's okay. Yellow if you are in between. Maybe you really have that dream of hacking out with your horse, but since you don't have clarity, you think it is not within your reach. So having clarity can help you with that. So if you're yellow, give yourself a yellow. If you have a clear vision board, you know what you want, give yourself a green. If you realize, I'm not so clear, give yourself a red. And again, this is you only see the answers. The more honest you are, the better you can assess yourself, and the better you, at the end, you can see where your needs really are. Bubble number 5 for in the clarity pillar is a key lesson for trainers, and that's a key lesson that I'm really going to talk in depth about in this course, because it's called the principles of learning and motivation. When you know how horses learn based on their nature, their natural likes and dislikes, then you can really help them create a learning environment for them that stimulates learning. If you don't take into account their nature, their natural behavior, you can really create a disconnect between you and your horse. So the more you know about the principles of learning and motivation, the better you can create that communication which you need in training, that you can tell your horse, I want this, and you can get that if you do this, and if you don't understand what I'm talking about, let me know, then I will change the environment. I will set you up for success so we can get those results and make training a win-win. So the principles of learning and motivation, and I will talk about that a lot all the time, is when you know the principles of learning, you don't need the rules. You don't need to know how often do I click in order to teach my horse targeting. How long do my training sessions need to be? Because the principle is, as long as your horse is engaged, you can keep training. Maybe you're running out of treats. Oh, you're doing positive reinforcement. If you run out of appetitives, then maybe it's time to give your horse a break, get a refill, or stop your training. What do I use as treats? Well, whatever your horse values in training. So there is no list that you need to use carrots or apples or celery. You really look at the individual. So, and in this course, I really apply those principles to your individual situations. How long do I need to train my horse? If you ask me that, then I will ask you, how old is your horse? How long does he get engaged? What does he like? How can you make it even, how can you keep him engaged longer if that's what you need? How can you stop without frustration? So once you know those principles of learning and motivation, then you really can become an autonomous clicker trainer who can answer those questions yourself. So give yourself a green if you say, I can train new behaviors 100% with positive reinforcement and I get predictable and timely successes. Give yourself a red if you have never clicker trained a behavior until it was on cue. Or if you have the feeling that clicker training is like a gambling game. I'm giving a cue. He might do it, he might not do it. I never know what I'm gonna get, and I never know if my horse will do it. If then you give yourself a red, because then you're missing some pieces about the principles of learning and motivation. Give yourself a yellow if you're in between those two. Let's take a look at the next pillar that will give you tremendous clarity, and that next pillar is called shaping plan. So one of the keys to success, and in the course I will teach you how to make shaping plans. I will practice shaping plans with you, and I give you the tools to make a really good shaping plan. A shaping plan, in my book, my definition is that it is a living document. It's a written manual of how you can teach your horse a behavior with 100% positive reinforcement. And without a clear plan, we are lost. And it's also hard to improvise on the go because we don't have the clarity of all the steps a training plan or shaping plan is containing. So when we are clear about the steps that we want to guide our horse through in order to get to the goal behavior, if he jumps from step 3 to step 7, we can recognize that because we have written down step 7. We know what step 7 looks like. And then we can go boop, to step 7. But if we get stuck in training, we get a horse that is a little bit frustrated, or he gets disengaged, he's not so enthusiastic about that anymore, or his performance really decreases. Then we know, okay, let's go back to the step where he was still successful. And when you have written that out and you have kind of a list of steps, it's so easy to recognize, oh, that's the step I recognize, than when you have to do this all by heart. The more you write shaping plans for different behaviors, different situations, the more you can do it without writing it down. So if you say, give yourself a green for assessing yourself on shaping plans, if you say, I have a binder full of shaping plans that I will use as a reference book if there's a behavior that I haven't trained in a few years, then I just take my book out and see, oh yeah, wow, amazing, those were the steps. I actually do have that. At one point I printed out that, and it's so convenient. Give yourself a red if you haven't written anything down ever, or if you just start and you think, I will wing it. I've done that in the beginning, absolutely. Give yourself a yellow if you admit you don't really make the whole plan, but you do write some things down, but you still get stuck in training. Then this could be a part of it, because there is something magical about writing things down and also discussing it with other people. What do you think? Do you think I can divide this part, this step, into smaller steps? And if so, how can I do that? And I will go really in depth in the course about how to do that. That will really help you with training your horse and getting the predictable results, getting the timely results, and also repeating the results in other situations or with different horses or helping other people. So the third pillar is super important too, because it's the pillar of taking action. So bubble number 7 is called practice, because only action leads to real accomplishments. And in our training, we get that valuable feedback from our horse that we actually really need in order to course correct, so that we can go towards in the direction of our dreams and goals. It's easier to practice and to take action when we have that clarity. If we have written the shaping plan, if we know exactly what to do, when to do it, how the process will go, it is way easier to actually start practicing it. And sometimes you get valuable feedback from your horse that you could never thought of when you were making your shaping plan. One time I was doing a demonstration at SPCA, and one of those horses was pretty traumatized, but I wanted to do a demonstration about how you start clicker training. So I gave a presentation, I gave them some explanation about how it all works, and then this horse didn't want to target, and somebody noticed that maybe the horse was afraid of the ball at the end of the target stick. And she said, like, this horse is also reacting fearfully to that person that is wearing a toque with a little pom-pom on her head. So when we removed the toque of that person, when she took that off, and we replaced the target stick for a little cone which had a triangular shape, suddenly the horse was really engaged. So that's kind of feedback that you can get only in real lifetime training. So you have to practice, and the more you practice, the more feedback you get from your horse. The more feedback you get, the better you get to know your horse, the better you can get to know yourself, and the better results you will get. So assess yourself agreeing on practicing if you train consistently. Not only that, you are also very clear about the goals, but you really have, like, you know exactly what you will do, when to do it, and you know, like, on Monday I'm training, on Friday I'm training, and on Saturday I'm training. Give yourself a red if you really want to start training this new behavior, and you start today and then you forget about it, and the next day you do something else with your horse, or you're actually not following your own shaping plan. Maybe you don't have a shaping plan, maybe that's the problem, or you don't have your dream board, or you don't have a vision and a goal, so that makes it really hard to practice consistently. But so if that's you, if you start training a new behavior before other behaviors are really on cue and are really that you're satisfied with the results that you get, but you start new behaviors all the time because that's the fun part, or you have no direction, or you don't have clarity about when you're going to train, give yourself a red. If you're in between, for instance, if you know you would accomplish more if you would have like a more serious schedule, then give yourself a yellow. So bubble number 8 is about, I call it feedback from your horse, and it's called emotions in training. It's a little bit more than just the emotions of your horse. Once you become aware of your own emotions in training, when do you get frustrated or angry with your horse because he's not doing it and he should know what he has to do, those are also things that can really hold you back from accomplishing successes in training. But also, what do you do when your horse gets frustrated? Why does he get frustrated? Which brings me back to the principles of learning and motivation. If you know why frustration can happen, then you can adjust your training situation. Maybe you should give him a higher rate of reinforcement. Maybe you should make smaller steps so that he knows exactly what he has to do in order to get a treat. So where do you make training predictable for him, and what's the part that you make it a little bit more unpredictable? Because if you keep clicking for every try, even when the behavior is already trained, you get usually less quality and less duration and less engagement of your horse, because he's just making that decision like, okay, I get a carrot for the canter, but I just don't feel like a carrot, or I just don't feel like a canter. So when you know to recognize those emotions, when is your horse still really engaged, when is your horse in pain and maybe he doesn't want to do it, because you're maybe training husbandry skills, or you have to take care of him because he's sick, or when does he get frustrated, when does the frustration go to maybe aggression, how can I prevent that? So in taking action, you get feedback from your horse, and the better you can interpret the feedback that you get from your horse, the better training environment you can provide for him, if that makes sense. So give yourself a green if you're super aware of your horse's emotions in training and you have strategies in place to turn undesired emotions like frustration or aggression into desired emotions. And on top of that, you also are very aware of your own frustrations and how you can prevent your own undesired emotions in training. Give yourself a red if you never paid attention to undesired emotions or feelings in your horse. You don't recognize when he's in pain or he's frustrated, or maybe you do notice that, but you don't know what to do about it. Give yourself a yellow if you're aware of emotions and that you know that you are really on your way to turning undesired emotions into desired emotions. How to get a disengaged horse get back and engaged in training. How can you prevent frustration? If you know more about that, but it doesn't work out all the time, then you give yourself a yellow. So bubble number 9 is really a key lesson for trainers. It's a training journal. It's about evaluating your training. The real learning happens after training. It's about the feedback that you can give yourself or the feedback that you can get from a coach by evaluating your own training afterwards. Like video is a really good training tool, but also a training logbook is a really invaluable training tool to give you confidence. There's so many ways to evaluate your training. We go into all those possibilities in the course, but evaluating your own training will really can help you with motivation, because when you evaluate your training, you can look back, and that can really help you keep yourself motivated, which brings me to the principle of learning and motivation, not only your horse, but also yourself. So we will talk about those things in the course, because sometimes we can feel discouraged, like, okay, he's never gonna learn this, because you're kind of struggling with a timely result. But when you can really see what your starting point was, like, okay, for instance, with me and Rita the mule, in the beginning when I started training her, I couldn't come within 20 meters. Now she comes to me and she's almost touching me. So even though that is a long, slow process, because she's incredibly traumatized, and I had to learn a lot about mules and mule language, and mule behavior, because I evaluate my training in the ways that I do, I can really see that I am making progress. So what I'm doing is giving me results. So without evaluating your process, you can stay stuck unnecessarily long. Give yourself a green if you evaluate your training results on a weekly, monthly, or other regular basis, and also especially if you are doing this with somebody else that can give you a fresh pair of eyes on your training. Absolute green there. Give yourself a red if you say, I never look back on my training. I forgot what I did 3 trainings ago. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm go with the flow, and I'm just doing what I feel like. That's great. But if you really want results that give you the confidence, it would be a great idea. So give yourself a red if you never look back on your training, you don't track your training in any way, and you never evaluate it. And give yourself a yellow if you say, yes, I do make videos and I do look back on them, or I do write things down, but not on a consistent basis, because that is what really will help you leap forward if you do it consistently. In the course, I will tell you how you can do this in a super easy way that will give you the results, that doesn't take a lot of time, and that keeps it fun. So there are 9 areas that you have assessed yourself about your clicker training, and now my question is, what do you notice? Take a little time, maybe stop the video and see, what colors are your bubbles? Are they mainly green? Do you have red? Do you have yellow? Is it mainly yellow? Is it mainly red? What does that tell you? If it's like a lot of red, there's many areas that you can improve on in your training. But sometimes, depending on what bubble it is, even if it's 1 red or 1 yellow, if you address that one point that is not green, sometimes that's all you need to leap forward, because then that one point is really one thing that is holding the rest of your training back. Maybe, yes, you're getting results, but you don't get them timely, or you're getting results, but you cannot repeat the similar results with a different horse, because you didn't track your training, for instance. So depending on the color and what bubble, you can assess yourself and ask yourself, do I really would like to improve this bubble, and if so, who can help me with this? Now, this assessment is 100% based on how I work. So all these bubbles and these 3 pillars, and making sure that you get that your training gets meaning, that you can create momentum, and that you can get predictable results and successes. That is what the HippoLogic training method is completely based on. So that's what I'm teaching in the 8-week course, The Confident Clicker Trainer. If you have any questions about your assessment, feel free to contact me. You can always send me an email to hippologic@gmail.com. You can find more information on my website, clickertraining.ca. And I would like to invite you join the course, the Confident Clicker Trainer course. There is an early bird bonus for people who register early. And what you get when you join is you get personal coaching in our group. I really have small groups because I personally find it very valuable to get that one-on-one attention. You will really learn and create more understanding. You will learn to understand your horse better, but also understand yourself better. What are your pitfalls and how can you overcome them? Because with this system, it works. And I designed this system to teach so that you can get the results with the system after the course ends. In the course you get accountability because we have weekly live sessions. You get homework, you get support, and you will improve your horse training skills. I will absolutely guarantee you that. So if you think this is for me, I would like to join, go to my website clickertraining.ca and register. There is an early bird bonus, but the bonus will go away. So if you want to save yourself money and get extra support, register while the early bird is still there. That's what I would do. Thank you so much for watching. Happy horse training.